Well, it was nothing like what it is today. A press conference there were two a week, one in the morning and one in the afternoon, and there were time for the convenience of newspapers, which were then afternoon papers and morning papers. Now we only have morning pretty much. Very few afternoon papers left. The television killed them off, and I regret it. So Roosevelt had two press conferences a week, and he, being crippled and confined to a wheelchair, he did not leave his desk. And we were herded into the Oval Office, and we stood in a semicircle around his desk, standing up, smoking cigarettes, dropping ashes on the rug. He was doing the same, and shouted questions at him. And he dealt with them very generously. And he hated many of the newspapers because they hated him. And he reciprocated as best he could by making nasty remarks about them, particularly the Republican papers that were always attacking him and tearing him apart. He hated them, and he let them know it. And it was very informal. He made little jokes. If he didn't want to answer a question, he would turn it aside by saying, "Oh, well, there's no news on that today." And that's all. We understood he wasn't going to answer. And it took us 6 months to get him to say whether or not he would run for another term. He kept turning it aside, saying, "No news on that today." And as I say, he hated several of the newspapers, the more conservative papers he didn't like. And he didn't like their reporters because he thought they reflected wrongly his own personal views and distorted them. He got around that by creating something called the Fireside chat. There was no fireside. It was done in his office, the Oval Office, on a little table over to one side with a microphone on it, and a technician there with screwdrivers and pliers and so on. And he would go on the air from there and talk in a way that proved so effective. It got him elected 4 times. He developed a knack for using I don't know what he would call it, I would call it common English, working class, common, everyday, unfrilled English. And he would try to speak in the style of a workman in overalls who had just come home from the mill or the plant, sitting with his wife in the kitchen at a table covered in oilcloth, if you know what that is or was. And that was a manner of delivery. And it worked beautifully. People hung on his words. They believed what he said. And every time he ran for office, he won.